LS swaps. What makes them so popular? For one, they're super easy to find. 2, you can push some serious power behind them. And 3, they're super cheap. How cheap, you may ask? Well, you can do an LS swap for around $1,000 bucks. I'm gonna show you guys the setup I currently have on the Datsun, and it's right around $1,000 for a running, driving, fire-breathing LS. Can you get that number under $1,000? Possibly if you do it correctly, but I think it's pretty realistic to get it close to 1,000, definitely under 2,000 if you know what you're doing. All right guys, so let me show you the current swap. This is a 5.3 out of a Silverado, mated to an S10 transmission, which is called the MV3500. Engine itself cost me $300 and the transmission is $200. And I currently took off the engine because the block is cracked. Now I didn't get the engine block cracked, I actually rebuilt this whole engine. The problem is that I left water over the winter and it got really cold and water expanded, cracking my block in 3 spots. Here's one spot, here's a second, here's a third. Kind of hard to tell. That was on me. The engine ran kind of weird and it was because of that. Now because the engine block was cracked, I did have to buy a new one from the junkyard, and this one cost me $600. You can get them at the junkyard right now relatively cheap for $500 to $800 right around, so I didn't get the best deal. But I was in the junkyard, it was an hour away, and I said screw it, let's pick it up and let's get this project rolling. And if you look hard enough, you can still get these on Facebook Marketplace for $200-300. I've seen multiple LS's for that cheap. But back to the old setup, it was a $300 engine, $200 transmission. Does that mean it only cost $500 to do an LS swap? No, I needed a special flywheel clutch, pilot bearing, pilot bushing, the stock throwout bearing. Totaled up to $400. So now that moves it up to $900. I also got a special oil pan that cost me $140. That was just a little bit lower than the truck oil pan. I could have used the truck oil pan, but my car's pretty low, so I didn't want to risk it. But if I was trying to be cheap, I could have definitely used the truck oil pan and we would have been good. We need a drive shaft. Now this one I got custom made from a shop close to my house, and it cost me around $200 to make. That moves up the total to around $1,100. Again, I was attempting to make the world's cheapest LS swap. If I were to do it again, I would have definitely bought the little kit that you could weld on, but I just used stock motor mounts that come in the truck. I put some angle iron on the frame and I just welded it on. Here's the angle. I welded it. I put some gussets on here and there, super thick, and then another gusset on the back. And it just goes like that. And you can use the stock truck motor mounts for this car. For the transmission, I did the same. This is the stock Datsun 281, and I just welded a piece of metal to where it would mount to the transmission. And it was easy as that. Put a little gusset in between. And yeah, it worked out perfectly. So I saved around probably 200 bucks doing this. The intake, I'm using the stock intake, stock fuel rails. I did convert the fuel lines to AN fuel lines. You don't need to do that. Here's a pilot bearing. I think it was like 10 bucks. Here's a Sanch flywheel. I could use the stock exhaust, but I bought these shorty block hugging headers, and these were only 100 bucks. I custom made this pipe and I flipped them upside down so they shoot out the top. Clutch master cylinder, and I made a little custom bracket that was basically free, but this was around $70. Probably one of the more expensive pieces that I needed. Stock bracket. Here's the power steering pump. I did have to modify this power steering pump a little bit. I got this custom AN fitting. For the wiring, I did have someone wire it for me, I looked online and some YouTube videos. It doesn't look that hard. I just had someone do it. It cost me like it cost me around 200. I think it was 250 to get the harness done and the ECU flashed. Custom shifter. This is definitely not needed for the LS swap. We really didn't need these switches, but I could have integrated to the stock system, but I thought they looked cool. So in total, I had close to $1,500 into the first original swap. Because I cracked the block and I had to buy another engine, the total is now closer to $2,000, but overall it's very affordable. This is the cheapest way to make a manual LS swap. If you want an automatic, it could probably be even cheaper. All you would have to do is buy a wrecked Tahoe or Silverado, pull the engine and the harness, sell the body of the car. The whole swap can easily be done for under $1,000. I'm so tired of building this thing. Now let's start it up. I quit. I give up on everything already. Let's put this battery in. I had the fuel off so it could pump. So I'm gonna pump some oil in there. Everything's hooked up. Let's try it out. Woo! We have a working engine, but I forgot to plug in a spark plug. Let's go. God, man, I was exhausted. It's been like 3 days swapping this thing. Like, it should have been an easy swap. It's just it's a lot of work by myself, you know. If I had someone helping me, we could have probably done it in a day. You know, life happens. I gotta cook, I gotta clean, I gotta eat, all this stuff besides just working on this car. And I don't know, it's a lot of stuff going on, but we got it running. Let's go.